Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at some Thursday night NBA playoff action. A couple more games on the slate as the Sixers and the Celtics are back in Philly for Game 6. We got the Nuggets and Suns back in Phoenix for Game 6. And we are either going to be getting some knotted up series or a couple teams moving on. So we've got some best bets in this video for you guys to check out. We also have some player props from the Thursday night slate. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us all playoffs long. You can also head to thelines.com. That's where we're putting up all the content we have right now, all the great picks and such on the site. And you have the opportunity to use our odds finder tool on there, which I talk to you guys about every show. You can use that to have a nice little chart, see all the offerings for you guys from these U.S. sports books. Make sure you're getting the best odds on all the bets you want to make in this postseason. We did not that great on Tuesday night, roughly about 1-3 in these best bets, but we are still, feeling pretty good about how we are looking at these Game 6s. I think there's some stuff we can talk about for sure with these teams moving to a different arena after the last game there. So let's jump right into your first NBA best bet for Thursday night here, Nate.
Yeah, I guess we're game early on this one, which is why on Tuesday night we did not get the over with that Nuggets parlay, but I am going to stick to it, and it's the same total, 226, and you might as well parlay it with the Suns' big guns to score, Book to score at least 30, KD to score at least 25, and then you're at plus 210. You can take KD to score at least 30, which is what he averages in elimination games, and then you'd be plus 300. Because, the Suns are going to need those guys to show up, obviously, if this game is going to go over. That's the only reason it didn't go over, is because neither of them got 30 in Denver, right? But the game was at least played at a 97 pace, which is faster than the first two in Denver. And the two games in Phoenix, it was just a completely different Suns offense than the first two games of the series. 125 points per game versus 95, a 129 rating versus 101. Book, in those two games. In Game 3, let's look at first. The pace really ratcheted up to 100. Book KD, 86 points on combined 68% usage, taking nearly all the shots for their team. This is why we're both in lockstep on this game, is that you don't want to go back to the well too many times, but it's just so reliable that these guys are going to take a ton of shots. Even if Chris Paul plays, which, by the way, he might try to play here, which I'm a little tentative about, in terms of, Book's been playing so well with the ball in his hands at all times, but obviously the Suns know that. They're not going to try to disrupt what he's been doing. He is the engine that makes them go right now. So just look at Book and KD, though, at home in these playoffs. Book scoring 39 a game, 69% field goal shooting, a 143 offensive rating. Still pretty awesome on the road, 33 a game and good splits. KD, 31.5 at home, still 27.5 on the road. So 25 plus points. The reason we've been hammering this every single time with the Suns is because these guys have to get at least 25. Even in a loss, they get that. And so, I don't know if the Suns are going to be able to win this game. I do think the Nuggets, their offense is equally unstoppable and due for some positive regression here after, pretty much just clapping back every time in that Game 4, which was just an absurd total. I should say, the KD and Book scoring went down a little bit, but both had 12 assists because the Suns were able to just play out of the double team, hit 13 threes. Both teams shot 57% in that Game 4. That's why you saw such a crazy total. I don't know if we're going to get all the way there here with a little bit more on the line, but Denver only shot 7 for 22 from 3 and still scored 124 points. It's like Jokic getting 53. Obviously, he's unstoppable. The two-man game is unstoppable. And they got 124 despite not getting much out of MPJ or Bruce Brown, who both got their confidence way up with Denver rolling there. Aaron Gordon, I should mention as well, much more involved in the offense in that Game 5 win. So I think you can see some of that carry over into Phoenix, and we know the Suns' role players are going to be much, much better at home, which we've been harping on at a lot in that series as well. So that's why I like the over, and I think you might as well add that the stars are going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, we're in lockstep on this game. I think I believe in the differences that we've seen in this series between when it's played in Phoenix, when it's played in Denver. I believe in that in terms of, Phoenix's ability to be the team that people got so excited about when KD got there right away and they won a couple games and they looked unstoppable against a few teams in the regular season. And those of us who had seen what happened in Brooklyn with the same, level of players around KD, and everyone's like, this is unstoppable. They're going to score 140 points a game. And it's like, well, the NBA playoffs are different, and you need other guys to be able to take the pressure off. Guys aren't playing 40 minutes in the regular season and on either side of the ball, and now they are. And there's a lot more depth and better overall players there for the Nuggets. But I believe in what I've seen so far in terms of the Phoenix being able to win at home and not on the road, and in large part because of, its role players for sure. But that just kind of leads me to my second pick, which I like your pick a lot. I'm just going Phoenix money line instead of the over there, and I'm just taking Booker's 30 points. I'm sure KD's probably going to get 25 as well, to be honest. Like, I have that as a bet as well in terms of all of them getting 25 and just parlaying that together, including Joker in there with those two. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for this one, like, I'm going to throw Phoenix in there on the money line and assume that we're going to get this game to game 7. In this series at home, Book right now, just to talk about him for a sec, like 41 a game in 41 minutes per game at home in those first two, 38 a game and 42 minutes per game overall at home in these playoffs. His usage rate stays pretty much the same, 30%. Interestingly, KD's has gone up at home in the last few games up to about 34%, taking a few more shots there, but that's partly because of the way that we saw Michael Malone really throw his doubles at, his double teams at Book a bit more than he did at KD. And that's why, we saw those double digit assists from Book as well. But a slightly higher usage rate from KD. It was like, get the ball out of Book's hands. And that's also why I'm not really worried if CP3 comes back. What you saw from Chris Paul, at least in game 1 where he played, 30 something minutes against this Nuggets team, was him take 5 threes, because that was still somewhat of the game plan, maybe even more so than in what we saw in game 4 from Michael Malone's defense, where he's throwing the house at those two dudes. He did it just as much hoping that Chris Paul would be the one taking a 3-pointer in those other games, and actually Landry Shamet being the one to shoot the threes in game 4 was worse for the Nuggets, because he's a better 3-point shooter than Chris Paul, especially right now at this point in their careers. So like, I think there's still plenty of reason to think that the offense is going to run through Book. But at 30 points for him, still at home, he still got that despite all those double teams, right? 36 in that last game. So I believe in the others' help for this Phoenix team enough to like continue to get them over, and I believe in the regression that we're going to get from the Denver others, if you will, in this series. I mean, at this point, Denver's others on the road, there's just 2 of them scoring in double figures versus 4 of them scoring in double figures at home, and that's really mostly a testament to KCP and then also Bruce Brown, who just isn't as good on the road right now. And there's something to that. I mean, they're both combining for about 14 points on 46% from the field, 15% from 3 on the road right now. I mean, Aaron Gordon and MPJ have been pretty good on the road, keeping up those roughly 16 points a game against this Suns team on the road. So maybe there's something to be said for that. But at Phoenix in general this series, like you mentioned, the offensive rating, 127.5 just in this series at home for Phoenix versus the 107 or so on the road in this series. So I'm sorry, 102, even worse than I thought. They're scoring 98.5 points a game in Denver. So like there's discrepancy. The shooting, much different, 63% true shooting versus 52% when they're at Denver, 11 threes at home versus 7 on the road, and then 24 free throw attempts versus 15. So like all that just leads me to believe that you've got the best bet with if you're going to talk about Book getting 30 and what are the results of this game going to be. Feel better about attacking the total with you as well, over 227. But I do think that there's reason to believe that like even if Joker puts up 40 tonight, which I'm banking on him getting 30 at least, that like the other players besides Jamal, who's also got 30 on the road in this series, aren't coming along enough for the ride to get them, to the 128 that they might need to score tonight versus roughly 118 or so would likely do it. But I see the Suns scoring 120. So really love the over, and I'm just going to throw the Phoenix money line in there to add to your case if anyone's interested.
Yeah, I mean, I agree looking at the home road splits here for Denver and them just not being as reliable in general. But what we have seen, I mean, that's more defensively, I guess, in my mind. So that's why I like the over even more. What we have seen is Denver just continue to attack and just be unstoppable on offense. And that's why both those games in Phoenix went over. That's why I lean over more than the Suns necessarily holding them off again. But I think you have sound logic here, and it does seem like we'll go to 7, and we'll see if Denver can do it again at home, which they have pretty convincingly. So the one thing I'm going to look at in this Celtics-Sixers game, and we shied away from betting on Game 5 because these are wildly unpredictable teams. Just from an effort standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, everything we talked about, it sure came to fruition again with the Celtics just coming out flat as hell at home, or dare I say kind of nervous, in terms of just Embiid being unstoppable. And so I'm going to start at that point with Embiid get 30 plus, which he has in 3 straight here. And I'm going to say Tatum also gets 30 plus again, and he gets 8 plus rebounds, and that makes you plus 300 on the parlay. And I'm not picking a winner. I'm just saying Tatum's going to go down swinging if the Celtics do go down. In Game 6, he's got 30 plus in 3 of his last 4, outside the finals where he was just a dud the entire series. He had 30 and 14 to close out Atlanta this year. He had 30 and 9 in a loss against Miami on low usage. And then, of course, that 46 and 9, the best playoff performance of his career, to win in Milwaukee and force a Game 7. And that's kind of what the first thing that comes to mind when you think, oh, my God, the Celtics are going to bow out of this one again, but not so fast in this round last year, right? Tatum brought them through. And he's the only guy who's not afraid to attack the rim against Embiid, it seems like. You saw in the second half, he was the only guy still going to the basket as the Celtics just missed 3 after 3. They get tight because Embiid is creating this unstoppable offense at the other end where, that just kind of, creates this avalanche where you're like, I got to hit this 3. The Sixers are not coming up empty because we're not guarding Embiid. Nobody is. He's got 32 points per game on 37% usage since he came back. He clearly just needed that one warm-up game, and now he's back to MVP form. 41% usage last game out. Averages more free throws at home. He's averaging 13 in those 3. And Tatum in the last 3 has come back with 29 points, 13 rebounds, which he does board a ton against the Sixers. And when his team was in trouble, he went up from a 31% usage rate on average to 40%, took 27 shots, got to the line, again, because he's not afraid to attack Embiid. And the Celtics are just strangely kind of a better road playoff team. I mean, they're better when people doubt them. I think it's kind of a team that can't handle expectations, right? That's why they're 10-10 in their last 20 home playoff games, because there's this nervous energy in the Garden because everybody thinks, the Celtics been the favorites all year. They think they're supposed to win this one. They have beaten the Sixers multiple times in the playoffs. And it just starts to build with every missed 3. And that's why you can't really trust them. There's so much variance. If they're going to shoot this many 3s, they need to hit the 3s. But what I do trust is that Tatum can get it going inside and out, and that Embiid is a walking 30-point bet. So that's why I like that parlay.
Yeah, I mean, it's juicy. You could probably dumb it down to like 25 points each. I have zero qualms with the rebounds for Tatum, by the way. I think either way you want to slice it, like go for some juice, get the 30 points. My thing about this game too is like the numbers in Philly for this series specifically a little bit different than what we've seen at home for the Celtics here. Like at home, 113 points a game, but that last game was so slow. It's going faster in Boston, basically, is my main point. We're down to about 114. It's totals about 219 in this game. So, it's a little bit in terms of the average in Philly for this series. The games are averaging about 219 points total. So like, over, the 213 and a half that we have in this game, if that's going to be the case. And if those two things are going to happen, by the way, like those two dudes are going to get 30, then like I'm still going to take the over in this game as well. But I would just as something to add to it if you wanted, and you dumb it down, like I said, to the 25. I'm basically doing that in a way, and I'll talk about that more in player props with those two guys specifically as a part of a parlay that I like there for this game as well. So, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm going to say go for it, get the juice. I love everything around Tatum and the boards. I think Embiid, if he's going to get to the line 13 or 14 times is good for 30 as well. He had 5 or 6 free throw jumpers that he used. That's so wet for him. You can tell every single day he's just in the gym getting the ball right at the free throw line off of a pocket pass from James Harden the way he was last game, and just same motion every single time where he's like coming all the way up from the ground. That's beautiful. So that's a layup for him at this point, and I'm with you on his points as well. So no qualms with it. Like I'm just going to be a little bit more of a scaredy cat and take it with 25 each, I think. Yeah. But I would actually probably throw the over in there as well and maybe see how that juices it up. So just some things to play with. But I'm going to play around with some stuff here in the other game for the last bet that we have in our best bets video here, Nate, for a couple things that happen here. Joker, Book, KD, all to get 25 points. Just the 3 of them, and that's minus 107 on FanDuel. And I'm very happy to play that without needing too much, too many that good of juice back on it. Like the even money, basically for me, I'm fine with it. If you want to add the over once again, which we've already made clear we like in this game, in Phoenix, +1, you get up to 2-1 on your money basically for adding the over to get to 227 to those 3 picks I mentioned, Joker, Book, and KD, all to get 25 points. The only time it has not happened in this series, Joker had 24 in a sloppy, slow game 2 that saw like a 184 total, I think, right? 97-87 was that game. And Joker still got the 24, but by the end of the fourth quarter, that thing was a little bit out of hand, even though it started close in the fourth. And so, yeah, the two, I think, what else do you want me to say about KD and Booker getting, a combined 50 points, 25 each? Like they've got a combined 64% usage rate, between the two of them over the last 2 games in this series. It's a 60% usage rate. They're taking 2/3 of the shots when they're on the floor. Even when we saw Michael Malone try to force the ball out of Book's hands in that last game in Phoenix, still got over 30 points in that one, over 35. And so, yeah, I mean, these guys know that they need to combine for 75 points, around there, 70 to 80 points basically, to win this game. Even if they get 15 or 16 points from the random other that's going to score in this game, if it's Terrence Ross or if it's obviously most likely to be Landry Shamet at this point, who's the beneficiary of all those open shots and getting close to 30 minutes at this point because they like his shooting. I think you'll see him back out there. So with all that said, like the Joker stuff, like I can go into it once more, but like on the road, he knows he needs to take over. And that's what this comes down to, and why I started with it was Joker needs to take over. And I think he's a great bet for 30 points where his prop is at. But I'll just add him in 25 and not try to get cute with it and have to this is more of a safer bet, to be honest, despite it being a 3-play parlay. It's just taking worse odds on things that are super likely to happen that you can depend on in the playoffs. Joker's usage rate on the road, 34% versus the 30% that he's where he's at home. Still got 29 last game, even though, he was 4-11 in the first half of their game 5 win at home. And that's while he was trying to dime up 8 assists through the first 2.5 quarters of that game because of what we said, where I called that correctly. Like when he's coming back after a big game where he loses despite scoring 40 or 50 points, and at home as well, you add the fact that he passes more, that was a better passing opportunity for him in this one. Like what we saw when he scored 53 was, all right, y'all aren't hitting. Jamal is doing Jamal. So I'm going to just play my 2-man game with Jamal. Michael Porter Jr., if you're open, you get to shoot. Everybody else, please stop shooting, KCP and Bruce Brown. Like, it's not going in for you guys on the road. So I'm going to go ahead and just take it to the hole each time via the 2-man game with Jamal. And I think you see plenty of that tonight. I have no problem making this 30 for Joker. But like I said, I'm just not going to get cute with it. Just play 25 for the 3 of them, build the bankroll a little bit, and then maybe get a little bit juicier on other ways to find, better juice on your props here.
Yeah, I like it. This is like the base bet for the other 2 parlays we're talking about, where you get plus money. You take a little bit more risky things like the total, or bigger juice like you had in your other parlay. I mean, I was the one who was scared two nights ago with taking Jokic to get 25 points. He wound up with 29, but like you were saying, yeah, he deferred more at home. He passed a lot. He only had 4 points in the first quarter, which we did hit on that player prop. Because, he's coming out looking to get everybody else involved, and everybody else is flying around, and because it's home. Again, it's home. And now in Phoenix, where he just, absolutely demolished DeAndre Ayton and dragged the Nuggets down the stretch to just keep the game close. And that's why we had overs, because it was just incredible efficiency on both sides. I definitely trust Jokic to get 25. And the other 2 guys, it speaks for itself. Like you said, they're taking 2/3 of the shots for their team, and they're 2 of the most efficient scorers of all time. So, easy, good bankroll builder.
Yeah, for sure. And the volume for those guys is just so high. That's what we're chasing in these playoffs at this point is like, look, like we know who's going to have the ball in their hands. Are they going to make the shots? Maybe, maybe not. Al Horford was another great bet last night. He took 7 threes. He just didn't make any of them, but we got to find the volume, right? You got to find the usage there and go for it. Sorry to throw strays at your C's. Y'all aren't out of it. Don't worry. Either way, that's all the time we have in this best bets video for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Check out the play props that we have up for you as well for Thursday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.